All right, let's get straight into it. In this explainer, we're going to crack the code on a real AQA GCSE chemistry question. We're going to break down question 01, which is all about structure and bonding, and I'll show you exactly what the examiners are looking for so you can bag every single mark. So let's get started. It's the question on everyone's mind, right? How do you nail those big 6-mark questions? It's not just about what you know, it's about how you write it down, how you present your answer to tick every single box for the examiner. And that is exactly what we're going to walk through today. So we are focusing entirely on question 01 from this AQA paper. It's got 2 parts. It starts with a pretty straightforward 2-marker, but then it ramps up to that all-important 6-mark question. Okay, let's kick things off with the first part of the question. It's worth 2 marks, and it's asking us to pick out 2 substances from a list that have intermolecular forces. Now, this seems simple, but it's testing a really fundamental concept that you've just got to get right. And here are our choices. We've got diamond, magnesium, polyethylene, sodium chloride, and water. So which 2 is it going to be? Before we just blurt out the answer, let's do a super quick refresh on what intermolecular forces actually are. So here's the absolute key. Intermolecular forces are the weak attractions between molecules. I'm going to say that again, between them. They're not the super strong bonds inside the molecules. So we're on the hunt for substances that are made up of simple individual molecules. So with that in mind, what does the official AQA mark scheme tell us? Let's take a look at what they say the right answers are. And there you have it. The 2 correct answers are polyethylene and water. Now, why is that? Well, it's because they're both made of simple molecules. You've got your H2O molecules in water and those long-chain hydrocarbon molecules in polyethylene. The other 3, diamond, magnesium, sodium chloride, they're all giant structures held together by really strong covalent, metallic, or ionic bonds, not those weak intermolecular forces. Okay, now for the main event, the 6-mark question. This is where you can really flex your chemistry muscles and scoop up a huge chunk of marks all in one go. Right, the task is to compare the structure and bonding of these 3 compounds. Now listen up, that word compare is your biggest clue. It means you can't just describe each one on its own. Nope, you have to be actively pointing out what's similar and, even more importantly, what's different about them. Let's see what we're dealing with. First up, we've got carbon dioxide. And you can see straight away it's made of these little individual molecules. This is what we call a simple molecular structure. Lock that idea in your head because it's our starting point for the whole comparison. Next, magnesium oxide. And whoa, this is a completely different beast, isn't it? It's not made of little separate molecules at all. This is a giant ionic lattice, just a huge repeating grid of positive magnesium ions and negative oxygen ions, all stuck together by powerful electrostatic forces. And finally, our third one, silicon dioxide. Now this is also a giant structure, but the bonding is different again. This is a giant covalent structure, where every single atom is locked to its neighbors by strong covalent bonds. You could think of it as just one enormous molecule. Okay, so we've seen what they are, but how do you actually turn those observations into 6 juicy marks? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the indicative content from the AQA mark scheme. Think of this as the examiner's checklist. So this first slide really breaks down the first layer of your comparison. The examiner wants to see you contrast the overall structure. You'll get marks for saying carbon dioxide is made of small molecules, while the other 2 are giant structures. Another point, talk about the particles. CO2 and silicon dioxide are made of atoms, but MgO is made of ions. And finally, and this is a big one, you have to contrast the forces. Weak intermolecular forces for CO2, but strong bonds running all the way through the other giant structures. Next on the checklist, the examiner wants you to compare the type of bonding. Here, you can actually group carbon dioxide and silicon dioxide together. They're both made from nonmetals, so they have covalent bonds, where electrons are shared. Magnesium oxide, on the other hand, is a metal and a nonmetal, so it has ionic bonds, where electrons are transferred. Highlighting that difference between sharing and transferring is absolutely crucial to get the marks. Now, to really push your answer into that top mark bracket, you've got to add a bit more detail about what those electrons are actually doing. For magnesium oxide, you need to be specific and say that electrons are transferred from the magnesium atom to the oxygen atom. And for the covalent guys, you need to mention that pairs of electrons are being shared between the atoms. And just look at the level of precision needed here. It's not enough to just say covalent bond. For carbon dioxide, the very best answers will specify that there are double bonds. For silicon dioxide, they'll say that each silicon forms 4 single bonds. And for magnesium oxide, that 2 electrons are transferred. It's this kind of killer detail that separates a good answer from a truly great one. Now, here is a golden tip, straight from the mark scheme itself. Notice how it says to ignore properties. The question asks you to compare structure and bonding, not things like melting point or if it conducts electricity. Talking about those things won't get you any extra marks, and it'll just waste your time. Stick to exactly what the question asks for. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Getting those top marks isn't just a test of your chemistry knowledge. It's a test of how well you can read a question and then communicate what you know with real precision. You've got to give the examiner exactly what they're looking for. Really, it's about cracking the code of the exam itself.